PSG win against Bayern Munich. They take out another team that I thought had a very good chance to win this Club World Cup. And yeah, this match was interesting to say the least. The first half I thought was very close. Both teams had very good chances. PSG had a great chance when Hakimi was wide open in space, and it just didn't happen when he put the pass in, and then a few other shots by Fabian Ruiz and a few others. Bayern Munich also had a few very good chances. Michael Olise was very dominant on that right-hand side, and his ability to cut in and stuff I just thought was exceptional, but nothing really happened final product-wise inside the box. Same thing with Kingsley Coman on the other side. I thought Harry Kane also played pretty well today. He had a few passes where I was like, oof, you look like, Kevin De Bruyne or Toni Kroos making some of those passes. So both teams I thought played pretty decently, but they just didn't have the clinicalness to score a goal. Obviously, we know at the beginning of the second half, Jamal Musiala hurts his ankle bad, and he's out of the match. So then you had to bring Serge Gnabry on, and then the match hit kind of a stalemate. We didn't know what was going on. And then in the 70th minute, there we go, Ousmane Dembele comes in. We've been wondering, where is Ousmane Dembele? He didn't play in the first match, and he's played sparingly throughout the entire tournament. But he comes in the 70th minute. I think injuries were just affecting him. And then Desiree Doué, 2 minutes after getting a yellow card, comes in and scores the goal. A very good pass by Joao Neves. Yeah, Desiree Doué, man. I mean, the player in the Champions League final. It's hard to say he was the player when the match was 5-0, but the best player probably you would say in that match was Desiree Doué. And he scored the goal that really broke through the match, and it was all PSG from there. And you think when they score in the 78th minute against a team like Bayern Munich, now they're just going to completely park the bus and go ultra defensive. And that's what I thought at first. But then in in the 82nd minute, we see our first red card. I say first for a reason because we're going to get to that. And I thought, okay, now that we see a red card, this is William Patrick trying to defend heavily and make sure no one on Bayern scores a goal. Substitutions came in. Thomas Muller came in. Goretzka came in. Paris Saint-Germain are going to have every player behind the ball. I would see Arsenal do this in many matches against Man City, especially at the beginning of the season. I would see, other clubs do this all the time when they're like, look, we have to win this match, whether it's against a big opponent in something like the Premier League or La Liga, or whether it's in some knockout style tournament where if we give up a goal, it could cost us our, trophy, any chance that we have of a trophy. And they did start to park the bus a little bit, and they still started to play ultra defensive. And I thought, look, if you guys can hold on for 12, 13 minutes, you win. But if you don't, and you allow them to score just one goal, there's virtually no way that you're going to win in extra time. No way. With 10 men against a team like Bayern Munich with as much quality as they have, they're subbing on guys who you could argue are even better than the guys who they had originally on. There's no way you're doing anything about it. And then it got even more interested when Lucas Hernandez got a red card in the 92nd minute. And I was like, oh my goodness. 9 men. I don't care that there's only 5 minutes left. 9 men. Bayern Munich have to score here. There's no way they don't score here. Bayern Munich don't score. PSG get a counterattack. And then Ousmane Dembele comes in and he scores the goal. Match over. Dembele, I mean, I've been making an argument that he should win the Ballon d'Or. I think he should win it over Lamine Yamal and Rafinha and a couple other guys because PSG won the Champions League, which we know is the most important club competition. There were no really major international competitions, which I know FIFA, especially recently, has weighed heavier than all other domestic competitions. We know that from Messi winning the Ballon d'Or in 2023 to Rodri winning it in 2024, mostly because of the Euros, to obviously Modric winning it in 2018. There is a huge incentive if you can guide your team to a international trophy, or if it's only club, one of those only club seasons, a Champions League is by far the most valuable. That's why there was the argument like, wait a second, what about Vinny? He won the Champions League with Real Madrid last year, but Rodri won the international trophy. He won the Euros and he was the best player at the Euros for Spain, and they valued that more than Vinny being the best player for Real Madrid that won the Champions League. But anyway, PSG wins, they make it through. Ousmane Dembele, like I said, he's had a better season. This season for him has been his last 5 seasons at Barcelona and early PSG combined. That's how drastic it's been. That's how good he's been this season in comparison to how he was the 5 seasons before that. So it's great to see. You have to feel, he's always been a very talented player, but you always just wanted to see him break through and you didn't know when and how he was going to do it. And now he's done it, and he's arguably not the best player in the world, but played the best this year. But larger story here is this. I was wrong about the Club World Cup. And not wrong in the way, not fully wrong, I should say, but partially wrong for sure. Where I was wrong was this. I thought it would be total European side domination. And in some way it is. We just had PSG Bayern. We're about to have Real Madrid Dortmund, which starts in about half an hour from now. Chelsea were in this round as well. 5 of the 8 teams in this round were European teams. But Man City lost to Al Hilal 3-4. We saw other European teams go out in dramatic fashion. Now, you could argue, is it because they don't really care? Is it because their players are tired? Is it because they're trying to rest up for the actual league season that matters more? Or is it just that in one match, anything can happen? You can never predict what's going to happen. These are still professional footballers that play in these other leagues. And if you take them lightly for a single moment, they can pounce on you. And that's what's happened to some of these European sides that we thought were potential favorites to lift the Club World Cup. But no, so I was very wrong about that. I thought it would be all European dominance, and some teams like Fluminense and Al Hilal got the better of European sides to make it as far as they did. Now, we still have a lot of European teams in this draw, and I still think we could still possibly get an all-European final. You know, it's probably going to be PSG and let's say Real Madrid, and then Chelsea and... Who did Chelsea play? Is it Fluminense? Yeah, they play Fluminense, I believe, because they beat Palmeiras yesterday. You probably think it's going to be Chelsea and then the winner of PSG, Real Madrid. If Real Madrid beat Dortmund, of course, which is a big if. It's probably going to still be an all-European final, but there was more fights. There was more grit. There was more determination by non-European teams than I thought initially, so I have to give respect for that. Where I wasn't wrong was this. The quality of football has not been exceptional. You know, we've seen some great players play great because that's what they do. But we've also seen some really tired and weak legs not be able to play the same way they do in the Champions League and the league season throughout the entire year. We've seen a lot of that. So it's clearly not perfect. And it clearly shows that because this is happening in the summer, in a season where there's no major international football, so you think these players would have a rest, and yet they still have to play a massive tournament with a lot of prize money. So you're trying to give them that incentive, but yet they just can't do it. Their bodies will wilt on them. Clearly, the quality of football has not been as good, and it's a problem. And maybe there's other issues in play here. Jude Bellingham in Real Madrid's game in Charlotte, I believe that was their second game, said that this pitch is bouncy, it is irregular, it clearly was not meant for grass, there's turf that's under it because it's an NFL stadium. They have problems. So clearly, America needs to fix this before it hosts the biggest tournament in the sport, the World Cup next summer. Maybe that's part of it. We saw in the Copa America last year, which was an awful tournament. Most of it was because the pitches were so small because they had to regulate it. They were playing on pitches that was the size of U13 pitches. Every player was right next to each other. It was crazy. So yeah, America, I understand it's a huge cash cow and will generate a lot of money, but it clearly has problems when it comes to this sport. It's not ready. It doesn't have the infrastructure for this sport because all their stadiums are not meant for football, soccer. They're meant for the other football, NFL. And that clearly shows a huge problem. But all in all, PSG, they're through. They were the best team in all of Europe last year, and they've probably been the best team at the Club World Cup so far in terms of the consistent play. I thought them and Bayern Munich, to be honest, along with Chelsea, of course, but they made it through again. And you have to say they're the favorites just because of their current run of form. Real Madrid will always pose a threat because they just have the names, the huge names that could always have a problem. You'd have to say PSG are the favorites. And they showed their ability again today. Masterful job at PSG. And let's see what they can do against Real Madrid or Dortmund, because that'll be a great game as well. And who will have bragging rights in America at the end of the Club World Cup?